To those of you who are with us already, I'm Caitlin with Abundant Montana. I'll leave a few more minutes for folks to get on and then we can get started. And just so everybody knows, this is being recorded. So if you have folks that you know that couldn't make it or want to review it later, please let me know so I can send it to you once it's ready. But again, we'll wait a few more minutes and then we'll get started. Okay, I don't want to wait too much longer, so I'm going to kick this off and turn the floor over to Whitney and Amber. Thank you for being here with us today to walk us through this. As a brief overview, Whitney joins us from Land to Hand, Montana, and Amber joins us from as a farm to school program specialist. And today we're going to spend some time exploring the importance of connecting students with local food systems and how integrating food in education into schools fosters some healthier habits. I'm going to go ahead and encourage folks to use the chat function for two reasons. A, if there's any technical difficulties that needs to come to our attention. And B, if you have any questions, please throw them in there. And then I'll make sure there's a little bit of time before 1 o'clock this afternoon to ask those questions live to our speakers. So I'm going to be quiet now. I think I gave all the capabilities to share screens, guys, but if not, just click the right buttons and I'll hit yes. And we'll go ahead and get started. Also, if you're a participant just listening, if you don't mind just being on mute so we don't pick up any background noise. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Can everyone see my presentation okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome. Thank you so much for having us. So today Amber and I are talking about why teaching kids how to grow and cook food matters. So first, my name is Whitney Pratt. I'm the education manager with Land to Hand. And I have about 11 years of experience teaching kids about food, farming, and cooking. So I'm really excited to talk about this topic. This is one that I feel really passionate about and love to get to spend time on. I was looking for a picture of me teaching, and I thought this was kind of an interesting throwback during sort of the height of the COVID pandemic, we did a lot of virtual cooking classes. So this is me with my microphone and camera and laptop teaching kids live how to cook food from home. And I run a farm to school program in Columbia Falls with the nonprofit Land to Hand. We do food access and education all over Flathead County. And our focus for farm to school is in Columbia Falls, which I'll be talking about a little bit later. If you're interested in Land to Hand, please check out our website. We do lots of really exciting things and we love to chat with folks about it. Okay, now I think Amber will introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amber Lewis, and I am the Farm to School Program Specialist with Montana Office of Public Instruction. I have been in this position for almost 2 years now, but I've been working in school food systems for over 8 years. Previously as a former food service director myself, and then as a school nutrition specialist with the state of Montana, going out on school administrative reviews and seeing how the National School Lunch Program is operating out there amongst the schools. But with that, I'm going to give it back over to Whitney, and we're going to just dive right into the material and our presentation on why teaching kids how to grow and cook food matters.
Thank you, Amber. And just as a heads up, I won't be able to monitor the chat. So if there is a technical difficulty, please just unmute and let us know. So first we want to start with a little bit of context. So what is the situation that we're looking at? What are some of our concerns that are why we think that teaching kids how to grow and cook food is so important? So one of the first is just the state of agriculture in our country. The average age of the US farmer is around 65. So our farming population is aging, and we really need another generation of young farmers to be stepping up and taking on this role. There also are some pretty alarming statistics that we have found, many from like a student risk survey that happened in, was it 2019, Amber? I'm not quite sure on the year of that. But in Montana, they found that only about 10% of adults meet the daily fruit and vegetable intake recommendation, and more than 80% of high school students do not meet the daily recommended fruit and vegetable intake. So what that tells us is that most Montanans are not eating enough fruits and vegetables for their long-term health and well-being. We also know that many children in Montana experience food insecurity. Estimates are around 31,000 children in Montana who don't have access to reliable, nutrient-dense, and culturally relevant food. We also know that our long-term health is intricately linked with nutrition. So if we want to be well and healthy throughout our whole lives, nutrition plays a really important role in that. And finally, just the incredible importance of having a connection to the sources of our food. I'm sure if anyone on this call has ever pulled a carrot out of the ground or seen the wheat growing that they later were able to use as flour, that connection is really, really important. And it's something that we have been losing generationally in our society. So kind of stepping back towards that connection to the sources of our food. Okay. And so now I'm going to talk about some of the benefits of teaching kids about how to grow and cook food. And I'm really going to be focusing on the why, and then we're going to transition more into the how for the latter part of this presentation as well. So in terms of health benefits, there are so many, and I hope you all enjoy. We have some photos of Land to Hand's programs in here. So this is a student who is prepping some vegetables at our summer camp. So one of the first benefits for health is just the physical and mental health benefits. There are really well documented benefits across the board. And the physical benefits include eating a lot more fruits and vegetables. There have also been studies that have found that children who are in school gardens get significantly more physical activity than students who are not in school gardens. Um, One thing that the research shows and that we have found to be really true is that kids who are involved in growing or cooking a fruit or vegetable are often twice as likely to try it. And I think that's really, really important. So many of us have interacted with kids who are unwilling to try new things, who are scared of trying new things, and engaging them in this process, in the cooking and in the growing, has been demonstrated to really dramatically increase their likelihood of trying those foods. Um, there's also a lot of evidence that school garden education can help develop community resilience. School gardens can be seen as that third space, so that space like sort of outside of school, home, work, where people can gather and can be social and be in community. So there's a lot of evidence around that. There's also the community resilience side of growing our own food, having that connection to our food and to the land, and a more sustainable way of producing that food. Um, and then overall, children's attitudes towards fruits and vegetables have been shown to be really dramatically improved by farm to school education. So what that means is like their willingness to try, whether or not they like fruits and vegetables and a wide range of fruits and vegetables, and their actual consumption. So overall, farm to school and school garden education has been found to increase the number of fruits and vegetables that kids eat, to increase their willingness to try to eat those fruits and vegetables, and increased how many that they like and that they're willing to eat, which is really exciting when we think about trying to get a new generation to consume more fruits and vegetables. Okay, so our next benefit is well-being and connection. This is a photo of our after-school garden club, which is with middle school students, and I think their faces sort of tell it all. Sometimes they don't love to literally get their hands dirty, but the connection and the joy that they experience in engaging with their food and growing their food is really palpable. So the benefits for well-being connection, first is emotional well-being. Um, as I've mentioned, there's a lot of opportunities for connection in the garden, for those positive mental health benefits. There are some studies that say that literally having your bare hands in the soil can help with your mental health, with your gut health. So those well-being and connection. There's also a demonstrated benefit of social skills. Kids have the opportunity to interact with children and adults in these settings, and often to practice those really important social skills, working in a team, collaborating, problem solving. All of those happen in a garden space. There's also the importance of pride in work and appreciation for others. I think Amber talks about this really well, but sometimes when we buy produce from the grocery store, we don't really think about where it came from and how much work went into producing that pepper, for instance. But when students have the opportunity to engage with actually growing the pepper, very often they will say things like, I can't believe that peppers only cost $2 at the grocery store. This pepper should cost $10 because of how much work it took. And so I think there's a lot of pride in that for youth of like, wow, I grew this and I worked so hard to grow it. And also just appreciation for the work of others, for the ranchers, the farmers, for everyone who puts in so much work to produce the food that we eat. There's also a sense of empowerment, which often comes from responsibility and ownership. In a school garden and in a growing setting, kids can take so much ownership over the process. Like they planted that seed, they transplanted that tomato, they harvested in the fall. And when kids are able to develop that ownership, they're empowered to know how to do it again, and to feel that sense of self-efficacy that they can take forward into other parts of their lives as well. Um, and this also definitely happens in teaching kids how to cook as well. Of course, cooking is a life skill that I'm sure we all use every day, and we see kids when they get to develop and scaffold those skills. So, learning how to use a knife safely, learning how to practice good food safety, they become more and more confident and empowered to prepare meals for themselves and for their families. Um, just a little story about that. We have a garden club with middle school students, and a couple of weeks ago, we used the last of our garden potatoes and we made mashed potatoes with the group in the Family and Consumer Sciences classroom. And all of the kids were super, super excited. And we had one student who didn't want to make mashed potatoes, she wanted to make fried potatoes. And we were able to let her do that, but it was kind of a hard process. I was really watching her knife, and she put a lot of salt in that frying pan. But then the next day, that student's mom told us that she came home and she made potatoes for the entire family. So just in that one interaction, that student went from, I've never done this alone, to I can make this for my entire family. Um, and then just to continue, so in terms of well-being and connection, that sense of community. So having a community around growing food, connecting with others. So often in our school garden, we see neighbors and other people coming by and just engaging with the garden and what is growing there. Students develop community amongst themselves as they're growing food. Um, Again, that resilience, which I think can go across so many, it helps develop students' resilience and grit. It helps develop our community resilience of having the knowledge of how to grow food, having the knowledge of how to cook food. And then some of that environmental resilience too. Hopefully, we're teaching students to be stewards of the land and to care for this land long into the future. Which connects with nature and the environment. A connection to nature and to a sense of place is so important for youth, and teaching kids how to grow food is a really direct way to get that connection. So often during a school day, kids don't spend a ton of time outside. And so the opportunity to be in the garden, to dig for worms, can be really powerful to help them continue learning and to develop that connection to where they live and what grows there. Okay. The next benefit that I want to discuss is life and career skills. You all can see this is Chef Tim Good, who owns the Last Chair restaurant in Whitefish. And Tim was generous enough to volunteer at our summer camp and to teach the students knife skills and how to make a vegetable curry, all of which was harvested from our school garden. And what I thought was particularly cool about this experience is um, we also teach our students knife skills. We teach them all of these things, but seeing that person in the chef's hat, in the chef's whites, was really transformative. The kids were whispering to each other, like, the chef's here, the chef's here. And those opportunities really allow youth to imagine, oh, maybe I would like to be a chef when I grow up. Maybe I will be a really masterful home cook when I grow up. So that was a really exciting thing. And so, of course, cooking and gardening are both life and career skills. Um, and there are career pathways in agriculture, culinary sciences, and in education. There's so many career pathways from agriculture and from culinary sciences. And so it's really exciting to help students develop that foundation. There's also countless curriculum connections in the school garden and with cooking. We're able to do cross-curricular education in our school garden with almost all of the subjects. And also within our cooking classes, I mean, there is math, there is social studies, there is history, there is Indian education for all. There's so many connections in this work. They also offer really hands-on experiences, which has been shown to be one of the most effective ways for kids to learn and to really retain information. And so being able to do that hands-on education means that youth often remember these lessons for much longer than they might remember a traditional lecture. Of course, there's the life skill of healthy eating habits, which I mentioned before, eating more fruits and vegetables, knowing how to prepare fruits and vegetables, knowing that you enjoy fruits and vegetables and being able to grow them as well. And then, of course, just those cooking and gardening skills that people can use throughout their lives. Okay. Unless there's anything to address right now, I am planning to turn it over to Amber. Oh, thank you. Amber put the link to the most recent youth risk behavior survey, which is great.
Hey, oh, Whitney, do you want to go back one more slide?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so now that Whitney has highlighted some of our overall concerns and benefits of this topic, I know we did more of a deep dive into the benefits as to why this is so important. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the history and the important role that the National School Lunch Program plays and still currently or that has played and currently plays in nutrition education for students. So the support for the need of school lunches to be provided began in the early 1900s. There was a common theme among many authors, which brought to light the question of if our society was to mandate universal schooling system, specifically among poverty-stricken students, how can then we require those students to attend school if they're malnourished and essentially improperly equipped to learn? So one of those books that's worth mentioning is a book written by Marjorie L. Scott, and this dates back to 1908, and it's titled School Feeding, Its Contribution to Child Nutrition. So it's with strong supporters like Marjorie Scott and many other people during that time, that by 1937, 15 states had passed laws to operate school lunchrooms within their school systems. By 1946, the National School Lunch Bill was enacted to provide basic legislative aid supporting school lunch program to be operated and incorporated into school systems. And then in 1966 is when the Child Nutrition Act was established in order to safeguard the health and the well-being of the nation's children, and to also encourage the domestic consumption of nutrition agricultural commodities that we're growing right here in the Americas. So in school year 22-23, Montana had served 19.5 million school meals, which on average is over 69,000 Montana students eat school meals each and every day. So through the National School Lunch Program and Farm to School programming, we can collectively reach and teach a lot of students about nutrition. When we start to see kids get excited about the food they're eating, food service directors, teachers, and other staff start to see that, and it shifts over into other areas throughout school academics, which we believe this directly correlates to, if you're fueling your body and you're eating healthy, you've got a healthy body, will eventually spill over to an equally healthy mind. So as we can see, this is not a new topic, and not only are there many supporters of this, but we now have proven data to support why this is important. Next slide. Yeah, so not only were there early advocates for school lunches to be served and made available in school systems, but the importance of growing a garden on school grounds was also well supported. The first American school garden was established in 1891 at the George Putnam School in Roxbury, Massachusetts. School gardens peaked in years immediately following World War I. And by 1906, the US Department of Agriculture estimated that there were 75,000 school gardens in the United States. Currently, from a report from the current farm to school census for 2023, so currently 14.7 of school districts report that they have an edible garden, which actually only equates to 2,698 school districts across the nation. Here in Montana, however, we have 61% of schools that participate in farm to school activities. They are creating and tending to their school gardens. And these statistics, like I said, they come from our most recent farm to school census, and I will drop that into the chat as well. You can narrow it down by nationwide, and then you can also dig a little bit deeper and narrow it down just to Montana and look at Montana facts as well, if you want to do a deeper dive on that. And then, so fast forwarding to today, now that I've given you a brief history lesson on the National School Lunch Program and school gardens. So since the beginning of the Patrick Leahy Farm to School Grant Program in 2013, $100 million has been awarded for 1,275 different projects supporting farm to school efforts. From the last farm to school census data reports that 74% of school districts participate in farm to school activities, and we have reached over 45 million students. Over 74,000 schools report that they incorporate local foods into their school meal programs. So even if they don't have their own school garden, which by the previous statistics shows that we've had a diminish in the amount of school gardens that are on campuses, but however, they are still reaching out to local producers to be able to still provide local products within their school meal programs. Okay, so yeah, so farm to school is thriving in Montana. So these are from our farm to school annual report, as well as the farm to school census, that 78% of school districts in Montana are also participating in farm to school activities, and 70% of those serve local foods. 94 schools and after school programs are registered to participate in the Harvest of the Month program. And that number just continues to grow. It continues to grow in actually early childcare education programming as well. Not just, that was just our statistic for K through 12 and after school programs. But there are more that are registered for early child care as well. But as Whitney kind of touched on before, we strongly believe that by connecting children with agriculture and exposing them to agricultural careers, farm to school initiatives are helping to prepare the next generation of farmers and to just generally get people excited about where their food is coming from and what they're putting into their bodies. All right, next slide. Yeah, so here we just wanted to take a few minutes to highlight some of the amazing farm to school efforts that are happening across the state. And by no means could we list all of them in the amount of time that we have here with you today. But I still wanted to take a few moments to share some of a few rock stars from across the state. Power Schools, they engage in school gardens, they incorporate local food into their menu whenever possible. Procuring local beef, they even grind their own flour, and the food service director works closely with their culinary arts teacher and the students having hands-on experiences, grinding that flour, and different opportunities to make things. They were recently awarded the Healthy Meals Incentive Award. They work with several partner organizations to kind of make it all possible and come full circle for the benefit of the students, which many of the farm to school programmings that we see across the state, it does take a village to make this all to kind of come to fruition in making a successful farm to school program. So any of these rock stars, and if you talk to any of them, it's all about building your team and building that momentum and coming together with a common goal of, expressing the importance of nutrition to make our students strong and healthy. And then hopefully provide a passion and what farming is and what it means to them, so then they can in turn have that passion to maybe go on and want to have their own farm and be able to give back to their communities one day. So Park County Farm to School, if you haven't heard of them, they've been around for a long time. They have great farm to school programming, and a lot of I talk about building those partner organizations. A lot of their farm to school programming is volunteer based and involving parent engagement, and they even have plenty of people that come in and volunteer to help make some of their meals even happen when they're doing their full Montana days, like in their school lunch programs. Schoolhouse Meets in Missoula is an ag program which focuses on teaching high school students the complete process from raising the cattle or raising other livestock, and then they teach them about the butchering process, and then even incorporating the end product back into the food service department school meal program. They have the all beef hot dogs sometimes that they serve on their menu. So it's kind of fun to see that come full circle. Helena has recently started hosting taste test days as well as full Montana menu days, where they will put menu ideas out to the students and they'll get to vote on what will go on their menu for Montana menu days. And they're just really highlighting and showcasing to the students where their food is coming from and why that's important. And then we have things like the Boson Ozone Bus, known as Bob, in Gallatin Valley, that promotes teaching kids about gardening. They also actively incorporate Harvest of the Month into their curriculum through monthly taste tests in classrooms. And then, lastly from me, you want to click to the next slide, Whitney. I would just like to plug Montana Marinara real quickly. This month, Montana OPI, with our partners from Mission West Community Development Partners, Montana Partnership to End Childhood Hunger, Western Montana Growers Co-op. So we're going to be on tour for our annual Montana Marinara campaign this month. We will be visiting host school sites, and we've done this now. I think this is our third year that we're doing this. We're going to be conducting taste tests of Montana Marinara. And if you haven't heard of what Montana Marinara is, it's a value-added product where we take commodity diced tomatoes and tomato paste, and then we combine it with locally grown butternut squash and carrots and onions and safflower oil. And then we process that into our own marinara sauce, and food service directors are able to use that in their school meal programs all across Montana. So after we process it, it goes on all of our delivery trucks and goes out to all schools that have ordered the products through the commodity distribution system, through participating in the National School Lunch Program. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Whitney, and I think she's going to share a little bit more about the amazing work that Land to Hand does with specific farm to school programming, or we can open it up to questions as well.
Thanks, Amber. And I just want to highlight again, I think Montana Marinara is such a cool way of combining the budget structure that school districts have to use and commodity foods and that funding with local foods to make such an exciting product that is returning money to the farmers, that is investing in our local community. So really excited about that. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about Land to Hand and how we really work to teach kids about growing and cooking food, and just tell a little bit more of sort of the stories of the why and the impact that we see from this work. So this is a lot of photos of some of the different things that we do in our garden. So in the top, you can see again that picture with Chef Tim Good and with all those students who are in our summer camp. So we run summer camps all through the summer in the Wildcat Garden, which for us is really important because it's a way to use the amazing produce that's available while school is not in session. It's a way to help take care of the garden. And we get over 100 kids into the garden every summer just through our summer camp program. And some of the why behind that is summer enrichment. Students often don't have as much access to enrichment and activities during the summer, and so we love to be able to provide that. And during the summer camp, kids get to be so much more involved. So one summer, we were going through like, okay, what are our challenges? And one of the challenges that the students identified was that we had a lot of produce and they wanted us to be selling it. And so those kids came up with a plan. They made their own signs and they had a farm stand. And so during summer camp, we had a farm stand. So those kids were practicing so many skills. They were flexing some entrepreneurial skills. They were practicing writing. They were practicing math and giving change and writing out price sheets. And they practiced their agricultural skills. They harvested. They bunched and bundled food. They weighed food. They practice their customer service and social skills. So I think this work has impacts well beyond those that may be more obvious. And then just again, every time a student comes into the Wildcat Garden, and we have about 1,800 kids who come into our garden every year, if it's at all possible, they try something. So in the spring, they're trying sage and sorrel. And in the fall, they get everything from apples to cucumbers and tomatoes. And we've noticed that over 75% of the students that we see tried something new when they were in the garden. So we know that we are impacting students' palates and their willingness to try new things. And then those cooking skills. So you can see our garden club practicing some of their knife skills. And we see those students start to get really excited. Like just last week, one of our students said, I'm going to be a chef when I grow up, and I'm going to start dishwashing at one of the local restaurants because he gets to have that really close connection to his food with us, and he gets to practice using knife skills and seeing that this is a really exciting career opportunity. And then you can see another picture of our summer camp, some of those younger students watering plants. And I think that that responsibility and that caretaking is such an amazing, amazing part of farm to school education. So students are learning to care for something, to tend to its needs, to identify what those needs are and to find ways to offer them. And I have seen students who are, really rambunctious, have a hard time following the rules, who get that plant that they need to transplant. And I have never seen such beautiful care. They take their time, they are gentle, and they really demonstrate just how much they care about the natural world and about those plants. So, like I said, we have our summer camp program, we have our after school garden club for middle schoolers, and then we teach garden lessons for about 6 weeks in the fall and 6 weeks in the spring for as long as we can be in that garden in our Montana climate. And then we also teach classroom lessons as well. So, we teach all second graders in Columbia Falls for 6 months about some basic nutrition education, and then we cook a Harvest of the Month recipe. So we do carrots, lentils, chickpeas, and we practice growing seeds. And then we also do a really robust harvest of the month. So we have the opportunity to work with junior high and high school family consumer science students. And they prepare a recipe in their classroom. And then we sample it out at lunch to all different classes. So to both elementary schools and the middle school, which has been really exciting. Okay, I think that is all that we have planned for our presentation. I'd love to hear if there are any questions or comments or other thoughts.
This is Robin. I have a question. Can I just jump in?
Please.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. Thank you, Whitney. That's I enjoyed the presentation and was also shocked by some of the numbers and statistics you shared. I'm wondering if are there any I'm curious about whether people are tracking any correlation between kids in the garden and health indicators that might expand from that, you know, with their time, whether it's in their own health or their mental health, emotional health, or scholastic improvement or whatever. I'm just curious if is anybody tracking that on any level?
So interestingly, Vermont through Shelburne Farms just got, and this I know as of August of 2024. So we all know there have been some changes to funding, but Shelburne Farms in Vermont just got a really significant amount of money to study longitudinal effects of farm to school education. And so they're actually, last I heard, there was a call out for organizations, for schools, for anyone who can participate in that research. And they have some really great, they have, you know, folks with advanced degrees working on it. But to my knowledge, there hasn't been a lot of longitudinal work done, and they are investing in that right now, which is exciting. There is quite a bit of evidence linking, you know, like increased consumption, and then we can make some assumptions of like, okay, if we increase consumption, that can lead to other health benefits, but I think we need those longitudinal studies to show more of that.
Yeah. This is a little pet thing of mine. You know, from a different sector, I don't know where it comes from, probably the Department of Education, there's a strong interest in improving kids' scholastic scores. But I haven't done anywhere near the level of exhaustive work that you guys have done, but I don't see in those reports any effort to talk about nutrition as a way to improve scores and learning. So
There's been a little bit. I think a lot of the impetus behind like breakfast in the classroom and breakfast after the bell, a lot of that came from research showing that students cannot learn if they do not have enough food and if they did not have an adequate breakfast. So there is some research demonstrating that that is a really significant problem, and that yeah, those scores all do improve with more access. That's also a lot of the impetus behind like universal school meals, like universal free school meals. And a lot of that is relatively new. So, but when we were in Minnesota, they definitely have had some evidence of like increased, I guess, scholastic outcomes from more universal school meal access.
that's great. Yeah.
Hi, Whitney. Hi, Amber. This is Kim and Helena. Always so inspiring to hear what you're doing, Whitney. Thanks for sharing that. I am doing a program here in Helena, and the biggest challenge I've had is balancing providing direct education, but then also making time for like office time to do grant research and grant reporting now. and trying to get all this data together in reports and sharing what we're doing. And it's this, I mean, yeah, you go teach classes and you're exhausted, and then it's to sit down at a computer and do the work. It's just a tough balance. I'm curious, do you have any insight or what kind of schedule you make to balance all that work?
Well, first and foremost, yes, that is a huge challenge. And I completely agree with that. I actually think that I didn't send you resources that I said I was going to because I probably ran out of computer time a few years ago. So yes, I fully agree with that. Um, One of the things that we have started to move towards is being really, really thoughtful about what we're measuring because we can't measure as much as we would like to. And so we've started to try to really hone in on what are those key indicators. And for me, that's been really helpful to say, like, okay, we can't do all the evaluation and the tracking that we would like to. So we've started to really try to focus on fewer things. So one of the examples of that is all of our lessons in the garden, we ask 3 questions. So did you learn something? Did you try something new? And did you have fun? And so that statistic I had of like 75% of kids tried something new, that came from that. And that was actually really easy for us to do because just 3 questions. We ask them, we do a quick count. So I would recommend trying to hone in. You can't report on everything. You're doing so many things and it's hard to report on all of it. And I think the other thing that I would offer, and it's taken me a really long time to learn this, but is when we're trying to build this movement, which is what we're doing, right? We have to balance those like micro and meso interventions. So teaching the students, having those interactions with the bigger communicating what we're doing and telling the community how important it is. And I have always found that balance hard because teaching the students is so joyful and it's so immediate. And if we're not doing that messaging, we're missing people and people who might want to come volunteer in the classroom or who might want to teach it in their own classroom might not know about what you're doing. And so I think a practice that I have started to implement is sometimes we have to say no. So sometimes we can't teach that lesson, but that means that we get to send out a newsletter. So 100 people know what we did instead. It's definitely something I'm still learning, and I'm really fortunate I have a whole team who helps me. But it's an ongoing process for sure.
That's super helpful. Thank you for all of that. I apologize, I have to hop off and go teach some kids. So thanks everyone.
Enjoy.
Whitney, you mentioned, you alluded to the kind of the current fluidity of federal funding or public agency granting. And I'm just curious, in both the work that Amber, you do and the work that you do, Whitney, what's a rough percentage of the funding that comes from public agency money?
For land to hand specifically, that number actually fluctuates quite a bit. Amber mentioned like the USDA Farm to School grant. That's a grant that you can't get more than every, I think, 3 years. So it's not one that you can just like year after year after year get. I would say that like for our Farm to School programming, if we have one of those, which we've had one in the past, and we actually have an application in for this cycle, but we have no idea if that will play out. So in like cycles when we have those grants, probably 2/3 of our program. In cycles where we don't, very, very little. So for us, it's a little bit fluid.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I know my position as well as a couple of others I work closely with Montana Farm to School with Jay Stagg, who is the Farm to School special or coordinator with Team Nutrition. my position is newer, being housed at this Montana Office of Public Instruction, which is working for the state of Montana. So this is money that is filtered down federally. So it's through SEA funds as well as state formula grant funding, specifically to meet the challenges of closing that gap in supply chain, the rescue plan. So yeah, my specific position as well as some others that are farm to school related are federally funded. So that is where we are at right now. And those will hopefully continue to be supported. So
Yeah, and I can just maybe take that another step further, which I think is that, as we all know, our schools are pretty perennially underfunded, and there had been more funds like during the COVID times. There were ESSER funds, and those have all expired. And um, Montana schools are in a lot of trouble. And I think that programs like school gardens, those like support programs, are often some that get chopped first. Like Kalispell Public Schools maybe losing the equivalent of 39 full-time positions if they don't pass a levy. So I think that there are some really rippling impacts to this changes in funding that we don't even fully understand yet. You're muted, Robin.
Thank you. I do want to say, Elijah, if you want to jump in, please don't let me hog the mic here. But I was curious kind of where you both sit right now for the work that you're doing and the long-term vision that you see as possible through the work you're doing. What would be the single most helpful support you could get right now? What would help move you guys along?
Yeah. I can never answer one thing when asked to do a single one, so we'll see if I can try to do that. I think a couple of things come to mind for me. One is really talking about this work. I think sometimes we overlook food and we don't talk about how vitally important it is to us every single day, and how vitally important youth are and how important their voices are. So for me, a huge part of it is just talking about it. Why are school gardens so important? Why is farm to school so important? Why is the school lunch program so important? Because they are. They're really the building blocks of so much of our society. And we're investing in our future and the future that we want to be a part of. So for me, spreading the word is maybe the biggest thing. And then I think just investing at any level. Can you donate some of your tomatoes to your school or to your local food bank? Can you donate some money at whatever amount makes sense to organizations that are doing this work? So investing your time. Can you help with a school garden? Those I think are going to be really important. Spreading the word and investing however you can to make sure this work continues.
Great, thanks.
I would just echo what Whitney was saying. And then just to add that one of the important things that I've noticed is continuing to talk about this is building those solid foundations and the relationships that come with partnerships and organizations and finding those people that have the common goal in making this all come to fruition and happen and be so successful within our state as well as carrying over into other areas. So that's one thing that I've definitely noticed and really come to appreciate doing this work is the sense of community and the partnerships and all the wonderful people that care so much about this work and about the future of Montana and its students and um how to just keep the momentum going in these efforts. So whether it's, and a lot of it is capacity, but is it capacity in like the people power and the volunteering? Is it capacity in the way of funding? So just figuring out those things to be able to help each other. So if one partnership or one organization doesn't have, who else can I reach out to that might be able to help me?
Yeah. That's helpful.
This is Alicia from the Sagebrush Food Pantry, and I'm in Shelby up on the High Line. And gosh, just all of this just really helped and made so much sense for me. I love the questions that Robin asked. I love Abundant Montana, and I believe you guys used to be Arrow, right?
Correct.
And I love, they were Lentil Underground and the gentleman that started the all of that. And I love all that history, and I love what you guys are doing. And the Harvest of the Month, we participate in that. I run our local food pantry, and also my husband and I have a nonprofit called Lona's, and we opened an after-school community center where we offer snacks from the food pantry for the kids. And we focus, which I need to get going over there here pretty soon. And I'm a volunteer, and I hear what the other gal was saying about balancing it all, because I'm telling my husband, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to spend X amount of time writing grants today. What grants do we even go for? Well, and this morning I was on a call, what's being held up, what's available. And it's all just really hard because, once again, I am a volunteer trying to do all of this because it needs to be done here. We have our community garden that's right down the street from our community center that we're not charging for right now, but we are making sure that X amount of kids get snacks after school. We let them help prepare them. We've got one boy who always asks for Brussels sprouts. So when the food pantry had some Brussels sprouts that needed to be used ASAP, but it was in between days that we were open, we give them, try and give them to the kids. And we're really happy to see how many kids will eat these vegetables without even asking for ranch, and they're willing to try these new things. And with the community, with the community gardens that we run just, a couple blocks down, after the community center closes, we go down to the community gardens, and the kids are just thrilled to be there and to be a part of it. And the other day, a kid had an avocado, and he's like, oh, I want to see if I can get the seed to grow. And I'm like, awesome, and they just love all the different aspects. And I'm working with the school trying to help them buy more local food. They've got X amount of dollars to use, but we don't have very many producers up in this area. And I love looking at Abundance Map to see who's on there, and, trying to reach out and see who else we can get on board to fill the gaps of, what we need to buy for the food pantry that isn't available, at certain times. And it's a lot of work to do all of this. And I appreciate, what you guys are doing. And I was excited to see, Whitney Pratt. I just spoke to her yesterday about getting my kiddos signed up for their camps over, a county or two away, because we don't have anything like that over here, but we should, and I should be doing it. But can I really add that to my list when I need to be writing a grant to be hiring somebody to help at the food pantry and the community center? And we're got Montana After School Alliance stuff that, we're doing. And it's just all of our little communities, are suffering, but have so many movements and things going on. And then I love that one of you said the micro and the meso measurements, because I'm going to school full time for community leadership and the community psychology. And right now I need to be writing a paper on a movement and need to be using the measurements of micro and meso. And I appreciate all of you guys here today. And I took lots and lots of notes, and I'm just wondering when I'm going to be able to get back to the parts where I made little notes of the to-do and the taking these notes from all these different classes. And it is a lot to do, but we just keep moving forward day by day. And, I've been doing this about 10 years or so, and hopefully I'll get the time to reach out to each and every one of you guys here in the next couple weeks to see where I can advance a little bit more. I need to look and see what even the harvest of the month vegetable is this month, because it's a new month and it's a lot, but I appreciate what all you guys do. Thank you for this today.
Well, and clearly you are doing a ton, so we appreciate you so much as well. And
Thank you.
keep digging into your community and finding other supporters. And if you're not connected with Montana Farmers Union, I would really strongly recommend that. They do great grants for your size.
Okay.
And, they're working right now on a trucking cooperative, which is incredibly
I
exciting.
am on that steering committee too.
Yeah, so they're a great supporter right now.
Yes. Thank you so much. Anything else that you can think of too? Sorry to cut you off, but that's just too funny. Yeah.
No, I love when we're all connected.
Right.
But no, that
Yeah.
I just wanted to share that.
It makes everything feel a little less lonely, Yeah.
Totally.
With everything going on.
Yeah, I just have to say thank you for all of your efforts and everything that you're doing. That's fantastic. I just kind of wanted to jump back just for a second. Robin had mentioned, what are, some of those statistics out there with feeding kids healthy food and how it correlates to test scores and then having some solid data. But then I also think that there's a component that is intangible, witnessing certain experiences. If how do you measure, okay, all of these kids used to eat carrots with ranch and now they're not. Is that something that's measurable? I mean, I'm sure that it is, but how do you measure that? So I think that there's intangible things that we just see come to life when kids are having these hands-on experiences and getting experience these different foods. And just with your potato story with the kid taking it home and wanting to make potatoes at home and growing avocados. How do we, other than story sharing, how do you show that in data?
Right.
Yeah.
Going from the qualitative to the quantitative. Yeah.
So I think those things are also important to note. And like Whitney had said too, about just talking about these things and sharing these experiences, they also have a lot of weight to them and are super important. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
I know that we're over time, but I just want to echo storytelling is so important. And we've let evaluation become something that's only about numbers, but especially from an Indigenous wisdom perspective, storytelling is one of the most powerful things that we can do. So keep telling those stories. Don't treat them as less important than the statistics. They're how we convince people. Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, so much. This was so thoughtful and such useful information. And I just wanted to offer that if anybody does want to revisit this recording, we will have it. Just shoot me a message and I would be happy to pass it along.
Thank you. Thanks, Abundant.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be posting it also on our YouTube channel in the near future. So this will get a larger audience. Yeah, thanks so much for your time and your effort and of course, everything that you do.
Thanks.
Okay, see y'all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Have a great day.